gone before they.
All right, everybody, confirm if you see us.
If you're there.
Hello.
The magic of technology.
Yeah.
Never seems to work exactly the way you want it to.
Mm-mm. Every one of these lives, you want to just like dive right in and start with something, but you realize that there's a lag in people coming in. There's a lag in technology. There's always trouble starting up. So it's, it is what it is.
I'm going to jump on my YouTube and take a look and see what everyone's seeing. I forgot I can do that.
Who's the boss today?
Hey, Joseph from Boston. How are you?
I am.
You are.
Ella Rays, do you see us now? I'm jumping on YouTube myself as a viewer to see if I can see us. It's kind of like back in the day. Remember when we used to call into a radio station? They would always tell us you can't listen while you're talking. Never quite understood how my phone caused feedback, but we never, and that's all we wanted to do, right? We wanted to hear ourselves make the request on the radio.
Yeah, of course.
But whenever anybody tried it, there'd be like major feedback, and they're like, you can't do that.
That's right. Yeah, they're like, turn down your radio. I'm like, wait, but I want to hear. I want to
hear myself.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Life says we're all clear. Hey, Quark. So I think we're good. Audio is coming in scratchy. Well,
Yeah.
we're gonna give it a shot.
Yeah.
Who? Is it any in particular person that's coming in scratchy? Picture perfect.
Good.
All right. Well, all things being equal, I think it's probably today about as good as it's going to get. So like all things Gen X, we're just going to have to say it's close enough, good enough, and you just have to suck it up, Buttercup. So feedback is something we grew up on. Listen, we're probably clearer than a scratched 45 that you listen to 14, 15, 3,000 times in a row. So we're going to go ahead and welcome you all to another episode of the ThreeView Mirror podcast, our weekly attempt to revisit the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s through three topics that we bring your way. And somewhere in those three topics, today's host has a hidden agenda. There is something, someone, something connecting those three topics together. And I don't know, and Shell doesn't yet know, and y'all don't know, but Chris knows because today he's our host and they're his three topics. And just like the shows back in the 80s, we decided, unlike any podcast I know, that we're going to film in front of a live studio audience so that you guys can see what others don't see happening behind the scenes, like scratchy audio and disappearing hosts. That said, I'm going to turn the feed up on my microphone a little, see if that helps a little bit with the scratchiness. But beyond that, I'm going to welcome you to the ThreeView Mirror podcast.
Floating heads.
I love it. I love our intro.
All right. Take it down. It's okay. That was all for me. My name is John Catrides, better known as Gen X Jono, across some of my social media platforms. You can find me here on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, even the TikTok app, for as long as that's going to be around. I'm joined by two hosts, and I'll give them a moment to introduce themselves, starting with Rochelle.
I am Rochelle O'Black, better known across my social media channels as Gen X Shell, CHELLE. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. I'm generally around. Come give me a shout out.
And I'm Chris Clues, better known as Chris Clues. I am a keynote speaker and author that focuses on the life and work lessons that we can learn from the best decade of all time, the 1980s. 80s pop culture and what it can teach us.
Nice. Welcome to the ThreeView Mirror podcast. Well, Chris, I'm going to send it over to you. You're the host with the most. We'll let you let us know what we're going to spend the next hour or so talking about.
Yeah, and so for those of you that might be here for the first time, the way this works is I'm going to present three topics. We're going to spend about 15 to 20 minutes on each topic. And then at the end, we're all going to guess how those three are connected. It could be a person. It could be a place. It could be a song, but it's going to be something. Now, I'm going to tell you for today, the 3 topics that I'm going to give you. This connection's a little bit, you're going to have to think a little bit about this connection because I wanted to tie spooky season into this one somehow. And the way that I had to do it meant that the connection was going to be a little bit different. So we'll see if you can get it. The 3 topics for today are Vacation, the movie, the original Vacation, National Lampoon's Vacation, John Hughes, and trick-or-treating.
Trick-or-treating in general. Wow.
Yeah, just general. Could talk about it as kids, but trick-or-treating in general. First thoughts.
I love the topics. They're so broad and so easy to talk about. I guess we can dive in.
All right, cool. Well, let's jump into National Lampoon's Vacation. 1983 is when we're going back. And I actually saw this movie. I was 13, and we were in Ocean City, Maryland, where I spent my summers. And my dad took the whole family to see Vacation. My grandmother was a little bit religious and walked out about 20 minutes into the movie and got really mad at my dad for taking us all there. But of course, I loved it. So what are your first thoughts when you think of National Lampoon's Vacation?
Well, I mean, it's like Christmas Vacation. It's one of those movies where you could just replay scenes in your mind and you just absolutely know the whole movie front to back. I don't know. I don't know why, and all I could think of is Clark with the sandwich. You know what I mean? When he's doing this with the sandwich, and then they're like, the dog peed on the sandwiches. And I don't know. That was always one of my favorite scenes. It's just, yeah, he's just dancing with the sandwich. or the police officer with the dog, and he's like, you sick. I don't know what he said to him. He's like, a sick son of a bitch. You.
Stacey Beach. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so much from this movie. And of course, Anthony Michael Hall, who so entertained us in so many movies, including on my shirt right here, entertained us in Weird Science as well. John, what are your first thoughts when you think of National Lampoon's Vacation?
So some of my favorite movies are the ones that I think of back when I recall them in memory as vignettes. Like each little scene, each little part of the movie kind of lives and stands on its own. And it's just constantly entertaining because you're like, how about this scene? Or how about when this happened? Or how about, Aunt Edna dying and being put on the roof of the car? The poor dog that tried for the first mile or two to keep up, and then we all know what happened there. The end with Wally World. Visiting, Randy Quaid and his kids. And then I think the one thing that I love more than anything else on the Vacation movies is that for every single one, they unashamedly swap out the kids. And they make no apologies about it. The ages are wrong. Sometimes they get older, but not as old as they should be. There's no continuity. They don't care. It's a Lampoon. It literally is what it says it is. And it's a phenomenal movie. Plus, you can't go wrong with the first time I remember ever seeing John Candy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the moose says you're closed. I say you're open. I mean, even like the Randy Quaid, Cousin Eddie and the Hamburger Helper. I don't know why they call this Hamburger Helper. It seems to do just fine by itself. And so that we talk a lot about these 80s movies and how a lot of the humor, and I don't want to call it Vacation a coming of age movie, of course, but it was coming out around that time where we had all of these. I mean, we had an influx of these awesome, we'll call them adult comedies. And, of course, Chevy Chase and Beverly D'Angelo and Anthony Michael Hall, Randy Quaid, could go on with all of the great actors and actresses in the movie. What would you say, like, if you had to pick a scene that was just like that's the scene that I just, every time it comes on, I love, and I could, because we have the ability nowadays to actually rewind a little bit easier, what would be the scene that you would just want to watch over and over again?
Oh my. Well, I think I kind of picked it. And mine was the sandwich and the dog and the cop and that whole picnic scene. That was more towards the beginning of the movie. I think it set me up at the beginning to start to laugh throughout the entire movie, and that I think that's part of why those scenes set in my mind. I mean, Aunt Edna was awesome, on the roof, but I just, the sandwich. It was the dog peeing on the sandwich and the dog trying to keep up. I don't know.
For me, it was probably the scene with. God, this is hard. There's so many, but I guess it's the scene where they're all eating the sandwich resonates in my head too. And they're all disgusted and they're all spitting it out and going crazy. And there's Edna just looking at it, shrugging her shoulders and going back at it.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. She's like,
yeah, like she doesn't care. And then juxtaposition, see that with her face when she finds out that the dog's gone.
Oh yeah.
And she starts whimpering in the back seat of the car. Yeah, the whole movie is made up of little scenes. I mean, for young kids today with a TikTok level of attention span, it probably works for them really well, because some of the old movies I try to show to my kids, they're too slow for them. Mm-hmm. The setup is too slow. It's a slow burn to the funny joke, and we learned to enjoy the slow burn, to appreciate the build up to the joke. But they want something changing, and this movie does just that. It's like, okay, boom, here's this. Now to Shroomelistic's point, grandma's on the roof of the car. Now someone's eating the sandwich. Now we're at Wally World. It just keeps moving. There's really very few dull moments in this.
Yeah.
I know another one. Christy Brinkley in the pool when she said, we're gonna like whatever. Yeah. I can't remember exactly what he says, but you know that scene all too well. And the funny thing about that scene was I remember thinking to myself, he is freaking cheating on his wife. Like, I thought that even as a kid. I'm like, well, that ain't right.
See, no, I didn't think
it was
that.
Christy Brinkley after all.
Yeah, I don't remember that even being a thought in my head. But as I'm introducing my kids to these movies, that's what my 12-year-old. What is the rating, Chris? Give us a ratings on this.
It's R. It's rated R.
Was it R?
Yeah.
I'm a bad.
Was it always R though? Like prior to?
Oh, yeah, it was always rated R.
Always R. Okay.
What rated R?
Why?
No real nudity.
There's a couple
bad language.
There's nudity. There's language. Yeah.
Not much. I mean, Airplane was PG. This is not worse than Airplane.
Oh, Airplane. Oh my word.
True. But
hey,
yeah.
Wait, can I do a crazy
real quick? My daughter picked up on your point. My daughter's like, this isn't funny. He went out there to cheat on his wife.
Yeah.
She's inside the house, and I'm like, oh, huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't really occur to me, but yeah, he had every intention of cheating on his wife.
Yeah.
This woman, she scared me. She was in the pool. She scared me. I was startled.
Hey, you guys know, I've told you all before here about my like really, really old dog. Life is funny. I got to go let him out. He's scratching at the door. Or I'm going to be
not
like,
acceptable, Rochelle. This is not acceptable.
give me 10 seconds.
Be prepared. All right, so let's talk about Shell while she's gone.
Let's talk about Shell.
I can hear you.
Wally World is closed. I can't go to an amusement park without thinking of Wally World. Like, I wonder, are we the last? Our kids certainly won't. Even if they've seen the movie, it's not that burnt into their brains. But for us, it's burnt into our brains. I can't go to an amusement park, walk up to the front without thinking in some way, shape, or form about Wally World.
And I always talk about the music with movies and the soundtracks in the 80s. And
I'll give you stories.
We have your full attention.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Listen, guys, if anybody has at least a 56K modem and a decent camera, Shell's job is on the block. Let us know. You can reach us at ThreeView Mirror. I don't even know our email.
At gmail.com.
At gmail.com.
Yeah.
3 with the number 3 in that instance. The number 3 mail. Yeah. Just
Number
apply.
3
Send us a short video.
My life is a constant state of literally my life is like vacation every day. Like there's just some goofy thing that happens every single day of my life that is something like that. Yeah.
Well,
Holiday Road. Life just said about the music.
Yeah, and I was saying about the music, and Life just said Holiday Road. And the 80s soundtracks, they were so great. And that song, as soon as it comes on, it just, I have all these visuals of the movie Vacation.
Yeah.
And there's no other way. You can't escape it. I mean, it's just, that's what was great about these soundtracks. And in particular, one single song that can take you right back to that movie, and you immediately start seeing the family truckster. You know, you may not love it, you may not like it now, but wait till you drive it. I mean, it was
Mm-hmm.
the whole movie. Yeah.
The other amazing thing for me is the fact that they flip the concept of the American family kind of on its head. Okay, we talk tropes. Before Vacation came out, the only family I ever saw driving around in a family truckster in a wood-paneled station wagon on TV was the Brady Bunch, where everything was perfect. You know, everyone, and then literally that is the last time before this movie I saw somebody and this completely shattered that image. The kids are doing drugs. They're self-gratifying themselves. They're complaining about who has to sit next to their dead grandmother. It's just the father's trying to cheat on the mother at a pool outside while she's sleeping in the motel. It just completely flipped it. It literally lampooned the idea of the family and a family vacation at a time when, I don't know, I always thought the concept of a family vacation was Americana. I didn't know anybody that got into their car and traveled across country on a family vacation outside of television. I wanted to. I thought it was amazing. No way in hell that was happening.
But it was also, as silly as it was also a very honest look at the insanity of trying to plan a family trip. And, you know, and it was, a lot of that was real. I mean, besides the fact that, you know, with Audrey and having a dead person breathe on her, but that's one of my favorite lines. The dead person breathed on me. I don't know why. Like, it's one of my favorite ones.
Makes sense now.
It
makes sense now. Your chalkboard makes sense now. I didn't remember that line, but yeah, it makes sense now.
Yeah. And there's so much quotable dialogue, like so many of these 80s movies. And in particular, Chevy Chase movies, Anthony Michael Hall movies had so much dialogue that's just quotable to this day. And I will say that I wasn't a fan of, it wasn't necessarily a remake because it was kind of rusty growing up. I think it was Ed Helms, but it wasn't terrible. I mean, that wasn't a terrible, but it was
never saw it.
Yeah, it was certainly better than, I don't know. I was not a fan of European Vacation. I went right from Vacation to, except for Look Kids, Big Ben, Parliament, Vacation to Christmas Vacation.
Vegas Vacation was, all I can remember was Papa Giorgio. Papa Giorgio. You watched them all. They were fun. But European and Vegas don't stand out in my mind the same way. They don't have that iconic status for me that Vacation and Christmas Vacation have. I think those two movies are amazing. And what I love about Vacation too is it wasn't slapstick comedy. It was just like Chevy Chase at his best. It was just the whole Beverly D'Angelo, and like you said, everybody together made this cast of people. Beverly D'Angelo's eyes, the way she looked, you know, sometimes when she was looking off to the side, you could see her annoyance. She did an excellent character in that movie.
Clark, slow down. Thank you for being a new subscriber. We love having Gen Xers on board here.
So I'm going to steal your thunder, Chris, and give a little bit of trivia, which I always thought was interesting. And I'm pretty sure you're the reason I know this. This must have come from a previous episode. But the funny thing is when you look at Anthony Michael Hall at the beginning of this movie, there are scenes within the movie where he's nowhere near as tall as Chevy Chase in the beginning and then is taller than him by the end. They took a while to film this. And in that time, he was exactly the right age that he hit a growth spurt in the middle of the movie, and he is significantly taller. The scene that comes to my mind is the Grand Canyon scene where Chevy Chase puts his arm around him. He's taller than Chevy Chase at that point.
I never really noticed that. That's pretty interesting.
Yep.
Little bit of trivia.
They also had to redo I don't know if they redid the scene, but the ending where they're running through the parking lot, it was the hottest day. It was like 106 degrees out. And Anthony Michael Hall got heat exhaustion or heat stroke. I mean, it was it was pretty intense. And they had a different ending that they tried. So there's a lot of really cool trivia in there too.
Now, is this the movie John Hughes wrote in like a ridiculously short amount of time, or is that, I get confused?
I don't know. He wrote, I want to say, and somebody could fact check me on this, but I think he wrote The Breakfast Club in like 72 hours.
Maybe it's that one. He
Yeah.
had the ability to write ridiculously quickly. He wrote both.
Yeah.
And one of them he wrote like on a weekend, which is just ridiculous to me. But I'm looking at the clock at 20 minutes and figuring
that's why
that
you're
it's a
leaving
good
us.
time to mention that,
Yeah.
listen, I don't know how trick-or-treating plays into any of this, but the writer of National Lampoon's Vacation is
John Hughes, which is our second topic. Yes. So first up, for those of you that just joined, the 3 topics. We just talked about the movie Vacation, 1983 movie Vacation. We're now going to talk about John Hughes, and we'll wrap up with a broad discussion about trick-or-treating because it is, after all, spooky season. So let's talk about John Hughes. I mean, there's so much I could say about him, so I'm going to let you two start because I would take the entire segment.
Well, I was literally thinking you ought to start because you are literally the John Hughes, give us the overall because you know him better than either one of us do. And I'm sure our audience would love to hear and pick your brain about him.
I mean, he was brilliant. He tapped into high school angst and teenage angst like I don't think anybody did before or after. There were people who caught it in one movie, for example, but nobody did it across an entire decade like he did. There's nobody. And I love the music, and people mention how much I love the music, but John Hughes was a huge music fan, and a lot of the music that you heard in the movies, he picked, he selected. He was the one who said, I want that song, I want that band. And he introduced us to so much great music. And I want to just list off for all of you out there how dynamic he was and how busy he was in the 80s, because these were the movies that he either wrote, directed, or was involved in both. Okay, so I'm going to start in 1982 and I'm going to go through 1992. National Lampoon's Class Reunion, Mr. Mom, National Lampoon's Vacation, 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club, European Vacation, Weird Science, Pretty in Pink, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Some Kind of Wonderful, Planes, Trains, Automobiles, She's Having a Baby, The Great Outdoors, Uncle Buck, Christmas Vacation, Home Alone, Only the Lonely, Dutch, Beethoven, Home Alone 2, and we'll kind of stop there. That is 10 years. I don't think there's anybody that's been that prolific.
No,
I mean, Spielberg maybe in the 80s, but his were different, and the projects were a lot, bigger in terms of the budgets and things like that.
Whenever I talk about what it was like being Gen X, at least my experience of it, I always talk about how we had an analog childhood in the 70s, a John Hughesian experience in high school in the 80s. And then the 90s, I don't like to talk about. The statute of limitations on some of the things I've done is not yet up. We'll leave that at there. And I know there's some people that say, well, that wasn't my high school experience. And I acknowledge that. Mm-hmm. He showed what his was like growing up in a suburban part of Chicago, of Illinois, I should say. I get that wasn't everybody's experience, but it resonated with me and a whole lot of kids. So that when my kids ask me, hey, what did school look like for you? I don't have any videotape of me. I have very few pictures outside of some black and whites and yearbooks. I can show them Breakfast Club and say this was kind of part of it. I can show them 16 Candles and the school dance scene. He created our video yearbook for a lot of us that we can all share and say, hey, it was kind of like this. Mm-hmm. Not completely, and certainly not for everybody, but for me, that's what I owe thanks to. The memories that I have were encapsulated in large part and will always be available on video because of John Hughes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
go ahead, Shel.
No, I was just going to say he tapped into what it was like to really, really, truly exist at that particular time period as a teenager in particular, I think. And I think that's why these movies are so big and resonate with so many of us.
Yeah, and just all the dialogue he left us and the characters that are just to this day are still talked about, and they still have an impact on pop culture. And there's very few directors, writers, actors, actresses that had the impact that he did that still to this day is resonating, and younger generations, younger people are finding those movies and finding those characters and appreciating them. And that's really awesome. And I will say, for those of you, a little bit of trivia with him, for those of you that didn't know, and the Breakfast Club, he was Brian's dad. So when he dropped him off in front of the school, he was also in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, the guy that was running through some of the cabs when they had the cab scene with Kevin Bacon and Steve Martin running on either side. So when you think about John Hughes, and I know this is tough for maybe to answer, but is there a favorite movie that you have of his?
Breakfast Club.
Somebody was mentioning Mr. Mom in the comments.
Yeah.
And then I heard him say schooner tuna, the tuna with the heart, and I was younger, I think, when that movie came out, and I thought it was hilarious. So I don't know. I kind of like Mr. Mom. I mean, I resonate with Breakfast Club, but I like Mr. Mom.
And mine, when I was younger, it was the Breakfast Club. It may have even been, 16 Candles for me. But as I've gotten older, my favorite John Hughes movie is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Definitely my second favorite.
I think that movie should have been nominated for an Academy Award.
Yeah.
I really do. It is a great movie, and it has a great message, and has two of the best actors of all time. So I don't know. For me, Planes, Trains, Automobiles, and this is the time of year. If you haven't watched it in a while, please. It is.
Yeah, it's very much a Thanksgiving movie for me.
Thanksgiving movie.
We'll watch it again. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, man. Here's another slight connection. So when I mentioned about Vacation being a series of vignettes, small scenes that create an amazing movie, John Hughes created things in very much that follows through. If you look at Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, same thing. If you look at 16 Candles, same things. Even though, and even Breakfast Club, which was filmed basically one shot. Once they get into the school, that's the location. Mm-hmm. They move around a little bit, upstairs, downstairs, but that's it. But even in that, you've got the scene where they're dancing. You've got the scene where they're smoking. You got the scene. And it's just a very broken up. Ferris Bueller does the same thing. It keeps your attention. He was really good at that, creating small scenes that can stand on their own, and yet, as we talk about the movie, everybody mentions the scenes. Yeah. I love that.
Oh, Ferris Bueller is being mentioned. And you know what? Strike that, Mr. Mom. Ferris Bueller. Loved Ferris Bueller. Could still quote Ferris Bueller stuff.
Directed or wrote?
I forget.
I think it was both, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
And somebody could fact check me on that, please. Feel free. But I think it was both.
Or don't.
I just, some of the lines, like I said, the obscure lines sometimes stand out to me. And for in particular, like 16 Candles, because of course, John Cusack kind of it was one of his first movies, and he played one of the two, brothers that were kind of geeky with Farmer Ted, and he pulls up with the prom queen, and they're like, black and white would just capture the moment. And I don't know why that song, that line always sticks in my head, but he gets so mad. He's like, and then I have a shirt actually that has the picture, the Polaroid, and it's just Anthony Michael Hall's face on the side because they didn't take the picture properly. I just think the Breakfast Club, the reason people, I think it resonates so much with people is, and I've told this story to Shell and John, but I actually last summer or the summer before, I was getting groceries bagged at the grocery store, and I had a Breakfast Club shirt on, and the girl who was bagging the grocery, mess of the bull, you'll get the horns. My favorite character, Principal Vernon.
Improvised, by the way.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, that part was improvised.
Wow. So I had she was bagging the groceries. I had Breakfast Club shirt on. She goes, "That's my favorite movie." And I said, "What? This is your favorite movie?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "Hold on a second." Because I was like 15, 16 when this movie came out. And she's like, "Yeah, I'm 16. And I said, "Well, how is this your favorite movie? Do you mind if I ask?" And she said, "My friends and I, we all love the John Hughes movies, but especially the Breakfast Club because they're real. We can see ourselves in them." And I said, "Well, what about the high school movies today?" She's like, "No, like the guys drive $100,000 cars. The girls look like they're 30. There's nothing realistic about these high school movies. That Breakfast Club, everybody was real. They were raw. They had the same problems that we have." My point that I'm making here is that those characters in the Breakfast Club will be, long after we're gone, those 5 characters will still be in every high school. And I think that's what makes it great.
You know, one other thing that now that you say that in comparison to today's like teenage movies, one of the things about The Breakfast Club is when you look back on it, if that girl was saying that that was one of her favorites, I think John Hughes was even very intelligent in how he even designed the costumes and the sets to not be like, showing a wood paneled, something very old fashioned. Even the clothing could almost transfer over to today. Maybe Molly Ringwald's skirt in the one scene was a little, whatever. But
I got that skirt in my closet today. I don't know what you're talking about.
but the rough look of the leather and the geek and what is it, the geek, the princess, the jock, none of them had a classic 80s look in it. Almost, it was like he made them timeless in both their costuming, the sets, everything, so that generations could enjoy the movie. And now that I think back on it, no wonder they enjoyed the movie. It wasn't looking back like some old movie.
Yeah, Glow nails it when Glow says that we were those characters. All those different cliques were so real, from jocks to stoners.
Yeah,
and some of us moved from one to another depending on when in our young lives. God, I remember. We talked teenage angst. I remember that angst. I wasn't immune from it. I had a lot of friends in high school, but I still remember if I got to the cafeteria and the table I usually sit in's full or whatever. I remember there were places I was comfortable sitting and places I wasn't comfortable sitting. Going to anywhere, the soccer game, trying to find a seat is something is it still a thing today? But that's the only way I can phrase it. Trying to find somewhere to sit in life and experience, that goes away. I don't feel that level of peer pressure at any job I've been in as an adult, any scenario. I could give a fuck, if I'm being completely honest, if somebody likes me or doesn't like me, as long as I'm being a good person. But back then it was everything.
Oh yeah.
And this movie nailed it. I wanted a Breakfast Club moment where I felt completely understood by somebody in a different clique. And I don't know that in reality we ever got it.
And I think some days, all of us are all five of them at one point in our day.
I think we all are. I think we have little elements, and that might be the movie was about one character that was subdivided into all the many aspects of ourselves, and we saw a reflection of each one of ourselves in every single one of the characters.
Yep. And I want to go back to John Hughes for a minute, because you know how he got his start, and it kind of makes sense, is that he sold jokes to Rodney Dangerfield and Joan Rivers.
While trick-or-treating?
Not while trick-or-treating. We're not there yet.
I'm trying to put it together.
No, not while trick-or-treating. And then he was actually a copywriter in an ad agency at Leo Burnett, which is so interesting because so many writers back in the day they kind of got their start selling jokes to comedians, but to sell them to Rodney Dangerfield and Joan Rivers, I mean, that's, it tells you why he was so good at what he did, that those two would entrust him with jokes and that they would buy them from him. And then being a copywriter, Leo Burnett, just an amazing career, and a life cut way too short at 59 years old. Literally just,
which
in New York City.
So old back then. Not seeming so old right now.
No, it's not. No. Not at
1980, all. Mighty Mulatto asks if 1980 is Zennial. Typically speaking, technically, sociologically speaking, 65 to 80 makes you a Gen Xer. But if you believe in those little micro gens, then yeah, I think they've cut out a little bit for you. We'll take you, though. We're a small generation. We're happy to have you if you want to stick around.
I say Gen X is an attitude, just like the Gen Jones that want to identify as a Gen Xer. I think Gen X is an attitude more than it is a year. If you can identify with having grown from analog to digital and so on, then you're, and have a little attitude and we're a latchkey kid kind of thing. Join us. We're cool.
And I want to mention, we are cool. And I want to mention one more thing about what Glow mentioned, the music. And, of course, I'm going to bring this back to the music because John Hughes was tied so closely to it. And if you think about some of the songs in those movies, If You Were Here, the Thompson Twins, which is at the end of 16 Candles, and it's such a perfect song for that moment. In Weird Science, somebody mentioned Danny Elfman earlier, who was the lead singer for Oingo Boingo. It's a Dead Man's Party and Weird Science were both done by Oingo Boingo, and both
And an incredible composer too.
An incredible composer, yeah. I mean, amazing composer. Pretty in Pink, obviously, Pretty in Pink itself. Ferris Bueller with even something as simple as "Oh Yeah" by Yellow, and the impact. I mean, he just was brilliant with the way that he picked the music, and of course the greatest one, "Don't You Forget About Me," with Simple Minds.
Here's the beauty of it. So I always talk to people and I say, listen, when we bought a music soundtrack tape, a cassette tape back then, the music played an integral role in the movie. You could remember the exact scene when the movie was playing. You could remember what was happening in it. It created this music muscle memory that from that point on forever, when you heard the song, you associated it back to the movie. Today, at best, it seems like music is inspired by, this is the music inspired by this movie. There's not, the music montage is no longer seen in most movies. It's kind of cringy the way our kids look at it. They're like, this is kind of silly. But we grew up where the music montage was an important part of every single, you waited for it. Oh, here it is. And sometimes there were more than one, but the music played such a big role. You couldn't separate the two. And I felt like I was getting two for the price of one. You got a movie and you got great music all in one. And there was nothing better than those soundtracks, because then you got to enjoy music by so many different artists that kind of tie together, and you only had to buy one tape.
Do they even sell soundtracks anymore? I don't even know.
Well, if they have them, like I said, it's basically music inspired by the movie because there's no music in the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody just mentioned "Cry Little Sister" with the Lost
Oh,
Boys.
yeah. That's absolutely Lost Boys.
Oh, absolutely.
That is for the Lost Boys. Damn.
Mhm.
Kenny and JTR, listen, Kenny Rogers was the king of 1980 soundtracks. Can you have Top Gun without Kenny Loggins?
Yeah.
I don't think you can.
No. Highway to the Danger Zone.
Yeah.
Caddyshack. I'm all right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
That's what music does, and that's what he was brilliant at. And somebody mentioned earlier that he launched music careers, and he absolutely did. At the very least, he introduced an American audience to a lot of great British and UK music that we may not have been aware of at the time, and really, I think, was instrumental in the alternative music, which I loved in the 80s. I think he was instrumental, no pun intended, in really launching so much more alternative that became accessible to all of us.
The last thing I will say, we're getting about that time, on John Hughes was, I wonder if he knew how timeless his movies would be, and he tied them to like events. Like you said, Chris, for me and you both, and I'm sure a lot of people, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles will always be something I watch with my family on Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. Home Alone has become a Christmas classic for my family. Mm-hmm.
Christmas Vacation.
Christmas Vacation is a Christmas classic for my family. Yeah. I wonder if he knew just how far into the future his stuff would go, and if he pegged them to those holidays purposely, because he was smart enough that he might have. But either way, huge debt of gratitude, because the man created memories for me and helped, without even knowing it, put my memories on film for me.
For generations to come.
For generations to come.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say about him. I mean, he's a top 5 director.
You loved Halloween, I heard.
Oh, did he?
Specifically Trick or Treating.
Really? He did, huh? Trick or Treating, yes. We all dress up as John Hughes for Trick or Treating, right?
That's what it's going to be.
For Halloween, for Christmas, yeah. All right. So let's talk just broadly about Trick or Treating, because I want us to all go back to when we were kids, trick-or-treating, and how much fun that was and how much we looked forward, hopefully most of you did, to Halloween, and how ridiculous those costumes were that we sweated our asses off in, those plastic masks that we had.
Which, when you look at back,
now they show up in every horror movie. I
was just going to say, any pictures of 70s and 80s costumes look like kids out on the purge.
Yeah, yes. They do.
It could be strawberry shortcake, and it's frightening. Casper the Ghost. Wendy the Friendly Witch gives me nightmares.
Yeah.
And the worst one Oh my fucking God. I'm trying to remember which one it was. It looked Muhammad Ali. If you haven't seen it,
Never
Google
seen
search the Muhammad. He looks like a possessed drag queen. I don't know who was responsible for coming up with the Muhammad Ali costume back in the 70s, but don't leave now. Nobody leave our show. This is good stuff coming. Halloween's going to be fun, but you all have homework. When you get off of this, Google search this 1970s Muhammad Ali costume. I'm telling you, it's the stuff of nightmares.
Go ahead, Chris.
I'll just give you a great example real quick because I was actually I was trying to tie something to the movie Halloween for Halloween. I was unable to do it. I don't know why, but I was. But the Michael Myers mask is actually a William Shatner Captain Kirk mask that they just cut the eyes a little bigger, and it's completely soulless. I mean, it's horrifying. But that was what we had. Go ahead, Shell.
No, I was going to say, you two are talking about sweating your ass off in one of those costumes. Meanwhile, whenever I was a kid, grew up, and it was cold during trick-or-treating, up here. Yeah, and so your mom dressed you like you were in the Christmas movie, like in layers and layers and layers of warm clothes, and then bought a way too big of a size of that plastic uniform thing. And then your heart was broken because by the time you were done trick-or-treating, you had a sweaty face with like icicle snots, forming at the two holes right here. Your tongue's like doing this weird little like poke through the whole thing when you're talking. Yeah. I get
like bloody because those things were razor sharp too.
Razor sharp. And then your heart was broken because you wanted to save your costume. You thought this was the greatest thing. You were going to like play with it later. At least the girls did, you were going to be strawberry shortcake later on. Well, then because of all the warm clothing and the plastic nature of it, the little ties that tied in the back of it got ripped, and then your costume was ruined. And the whole thing, it was an experience, like this sweaty, nasty snot icicles. That's how I felt.
Sir said either you can't breathe or you can't see.
Yeah, one or the other.
There were so many. So I did a video on this on my page just maybe 3 or 4 days ago because of spooky season. And I'm like, our Halloween, so many of what I see happening at Halloween today, I'm disgusted by. First of all, if any of you are parents and you're sending your kid out at 3 p.m., fucking stop it. Stop it. Don't, unless they're 6 or younger, wait till dark. People aren't even home yet. What are you doing? Do not send your children to my neighborhood if it's not dark. It's Halloween is supposed to be trick-or-treating at night.
I must say, though,
don't.
I must say, whenever I was a kid, I had never trick-or-treated at night. It was always it was in my hometown. You have to remember there was that whole like razor blade in the candy thing. There was that whole
made it fun.
No, but there was that whole
not go on our playgrounds either.
That was the thing. No, there was like all this hot news. And so my little community had decided that trick-or-treating was 2 to 4 on a Saturday. That was always the way.
You are the definition of what I hated. See, and that I was going to say number 2, stop changing the date. Halloween is October 31st. You show up on my door on Saturday, October 27th, you're not getting shit from me. I'm sorry.
Well, the whole community knew it, though.
We're Gen X. Gen X can take a little razor blade. It's not a big deal.
What is wrong with you?
Little blade of a razor
blade. It was where I grew up, and there was no.
You got lost in wood chippers in the middle of backwoods Pennsylvania, and you were afraid of Halloween. What the hell's wrong with you?
I don't know, but that's the way it was.
My heart breaks for your lost childhood. My favorite thing about trick-or-treating was at 9, the street lights coming on didn't matter. My parents go. They didn't come with us. There's no parents waiting at the end of a driveway, mind you. We just went to every stranger's house, got whatever they gave us, and that was the end of it. That was trick-or-treating. And, by the way, it was literally trick or treat. If it's one of these stupid-ass houses in my neighborhood that turn their lights off and you can still see the TV on, you're getting egged. Leave out some candy.
Yes. Yeah. What was it, Adam Sandler and Big Daddy, when he was like, I know you're home. You need some candy for the kid. And he goes in. Give him the watch.
Please give us some coins for our UNICEF box. Something.
Speaking of candy, what was your favorite candy to get on Halloween? Did you have a specific one that you just hoped that they would have when you showed up?
I had one that I hated.
I love Almond Joy.
two that I hated was one, the people that always decided to give you the healthy snacks, and then you had to lug around the god dang apple for the entire, or two or three, in your and it was usually a plastic pumpkin. It was like the McDonald's plastic pumpkins, as opposed to like a bag or a pillowcase. That's what we always had. We had the plastic.
Where did you grow up?
Would you stop? Yeah, somebody here knows what I'm talking about. The McDonald's.
I know what you're talking about, but we all had like whatever pillow. Why would you take a small plastic pumpkin? Oh, because it's 2:00 on a Saturday, October 26th. That's why.
No, and then we didn't. But there was the apples. Never liked the apples. And then there was always somebody that gave you the homemade popcorn ball that tasted a little bit burnt. Okay, which was always terrible. And then there was the candy corn. And listen, if I want to split people down the middle about candy corn and circus peanuts, those are the two worst tasting food items ever created on God's green earth.
Well, JTR said candy corn is the best candy. Fight me.
No,
so,
yeah.
Now we've got like a
split down the middle. We can have an argument in the comments, because I'm telling you, candy corn. Ugh.
Rolos. You can roll a Rolo to your pal. It's chocolate covered caramel.
I actually liked Almond Joy that to this day everyone seems to hate. So I always got a plethora because no one wanted it. So I got to have that. G, the OG, says some gave weed brownies. In Rochelle's neighborhood?
It actually was dark. I just got the.
So Rochelle probably had the custom-made costume, so she won't relate to this. But some of us went to like the pharmacy in town and just looked at the boxes to see what we were going to be for Halloween, and we're happy about it. I'm like, to be fair, you did describe the costumes, Rochelle, so I know you know what I'm talking about. But I remember being really excited about the stupid costumes we had. And let me tell you, my mom sucked at Halloween. There were years when she would be like, I have your costume ready. And I look, and it's the Bugs Bunny plastic suit with a Daffy Duck mask. They didn't even fucking match. She just found what and my favorite is I actually have a picture. I'm so stupid. I let the woman take a picture of me. She came home from the restaurant, and I'm like, Mom, you promised you'd bring me my Halloween costume. And she had obviously forgot, because she found a bunch of old vampire teeth in a junk drawer and a white sheet with yellow daisies on it, put it on my back, and called me Dracula. And I let the bitch take a picture of me doing this with it.
Well, that better show up this year.
Show it or it didn't happen. You know what I'm saying?
I'll post the picture. I literally let her take a picture of me. What a major fail. How many were you ever a hobo or a gypsy? That was the other one.
Everybody was a hobo. Yeah,
because our parents I forgot. So here's, put some dirt on your face and have a stick with a bag on it. Congratulations.
Or a clown.
Or just a ghost.
Or the clown.
Some eyes or a ghost.
Yeah.
I loved Mike and Ike's. Like, that's what I was hoped that I would get, the little Mike and Ike's. And I think I was 8 years old, and I got a lot of candy. I came home, I'm laying it out, and I came downstairs and I told my mom, like, I don't feel so good. And she's like, what's wrong? I said, I don't know. I just don't feel good. She goes, where's your Halloween candy? I'm like, I ate it all. I ate it like 30 minutes. And the thing that I hate the most is throwing up. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And my mom's like, I hate to tell you, but I think you're going to be throwing up tonight. And that was the last time I did. I didn't eat the Halloween candy for like 3 years because I equated it to throwing up after I just consumed an entire Halloween basket of it.
Someone just mentioned the caramel with the white center. Do you remember those things? The caramel with the white center.
Oh
yeah. Those weren't.
How about the pencils? Did you ever have one of those houses that gave out? You can't forget those losers.
Yeah.
Well, what? You asked me how far I went, John?
Yeah.
So we would go to, there was like a fairly well-off, wealthy community about, I don't know, a mile and a half away. And we would go there and get dropped off. And that's because somebody mentioned the full-size candy bars. We were legit getting full-size candy bars.
I give out full-size candy bars every year.
Yeah. But that was unusual back in the day.
Unusual today.
Yeah. So we would go there, and then we would get picked up, and then we would go through my neighborhood, where you just get, like one candy corn from somebody.
I want the people in the comments. So our show what's the date today? 19th?
18.
25th. All right. So next week will be our official Halloween show. Yeah, because Halloween's on a Thursday. And we've decided that we might be willing to dress up. So if you guys can think of costumes that you want us to wear, whether it's a theme, we have another 15, 20 minutes left in the show. Let us know. I've been growing out my goatee because I was just thinking maybe the Princess Bride would work. We've got the princess. We may have Wesley, and I figured I could do Inigo Montoya and grow out the goatee.
I think you could be Andre the Giant.
I was thinking more Wesley and the princess, but okay. To do whatever you want. But I just want to throw it out there to people because we have some time. And I got a commitment from these Goonies that they'd be willing to dress up next week if we can think of something fun. Yeah.
When did you get that commitment?
Last week.
Just now.
Okay.
Apparently.
No, after the show I asked.
No, I'll dress up, but wait, it's going to be chosen for us?
Well, they might give us some ideas.
Okay.
Yeah. Somebody said I'll be trick or treating in the daylight
on Thursday. I'll be trick or treating on Thursday, October 25th, in honor of Rochelle.
The first time I ever trick or treated in the dark was when I had kids.
No way.
No way. No way.
Wow.
That's just sad.
Yeah.
I know.
It would go so far. Like Chris said, he finished his Halloween candy that night. Mine lasted a week. I had so much candy. I didn't have a punk-ass little plastic pumpkin from a Happy Meal. I had a giant-sized king bed pillow sheet. And I remember we would like try to go home in between. If we filled it, we went home and went back. We went out right at dark, like at 6 o'clock, and we were out well towards 11. It was 5 hours of trick-or-treating and egging houses and shaving cream and toilet paper.
Well, we did that stuff all through the season, but we never did that we did that later on in our teenage years with the egging and everything. And we used to we called it corning, where you would take the
I am the great cornholio.
She said corning.
Corning.
I thought you said cornholio.
Someone in this audience knows what corning is. I'm telling you. You got they called it Indian corn, and you peeled it off the Indian corn, and you peeled it off the cob, and then you pelted people's houses with it. It's called corning.
Why?
It was like egging, only more
it's
noisy.
Nothing like egging. It bounces off.
It was noisy, and it was fun.
So are pebbles. Where the hell did you find Indian corn?
Because I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm telling you, someone in this audience knows. Someone in here is like, I went corning. I know what corning is. See?
It was the only night, too, Halloween night, where when the commercial came on, it's 10 o'clock, do you know where your children are? Our parents are actually able to say, yeah, I do. I actually know where they are. And that was probably
they're out there somewhere.
At least I have an idea of where they are.
Shall you continue to amaze me, guys? And this is live. There were times in the past when we hid this level of insanity from you. I edited it. It took me hours. I got rid of it. I made Rochelle look normal. I'm done. This is why we do it live, because it just took too damn long, and we called it a day. This is the insanity that is Rochelle.
We had to trudge.
I'm still lost. Why? It didn't do any damage.
It did most
no evidence. What? So when he's mowing the lawn the next day, he's like, "What's this?" There's no evidence of it.
You pelted their houses with it.
How much Indian corn did you have?
A lot.
Like a handful? You throw at it?
Yeah.
Where did you find all this Indian corn? We are so off track right now, but
let's get back to the.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway.
Someone said I was from Mars.
Yeah, I posted that on there. Was that corn buttered? All right.
Now I get the candy that I get for the trick-or-treaters in my neighborhood. It's candy that I like because I know I'm gonna have some left over, and I'm like, okay, so it's all Sour Patch stuff. I'm a huge fan.
We have a neighborhood filled with kids, but they're like, they go out at like 4 and they're done by 6. It's so sad to me.
Not mine. We get some good kids in here. We get. Kids
I hope so, man. I keep hoping for every year.
Yeah, it's fun. So, okay, are we 15 minutes into trick or treating?
We are.
All right.
I could keep
Okay,
going.
so-
Rochelle could keep going.
I could keep telling you stories about
Do 15
things.
Now,
minutes.
did you dress up the clown? Did you dress up the cows for Halloween when you went tipping them?
We didn't tip cows. We didn't do stuff. We were nice. We didn't do stuff like that.
Now all I have in my head is Tommy Boy, and
Listen,
when you were a kid.
I'm trying to find a picture. I'm a huge Halloween fan, and I'm trying to find you a picture at the moment right now because this is where's the camera at? That's my daughter.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did all.
I'm a huge Halloween fan. I could do the same. I've got so many. I go kind of crazy.
I go kind of crazy for Halloween. I absolutely. This was
this year. I have a ton of decorations. They're still not up.
That's
cool. That's like a Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead. That's actually me.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I did. Because we would dress up our whole family. Like my whole family went. There it is. See, trick or treating.
All right, so we could do like 15 minutes on corning, but I think we want to get
Corning.
We want to get to the reveal here. So, we talked about Vacation, the movie, the 1983 movie Vacation. We talked about
me last year.
I love it. I remember that one.
Sorry, Chris.
That's all right. Last year I went as Matthew McConaughey from Dazed and Confused.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I have pictures, but right now I'm going to get to the connection here. So,
yes, of course.
The three things: Vacation, movie, 1983, John Hughes, and Trick or Treating. Now, remember I told you that the connection here is just a little bit different, I think, from how we normally do it. So you're going to have to think a little bit about this one. Vacation, the movie, John Hughes, Trick or Treating.
I think I know it, but I'm going to leave it up to a little bit of the audience maybe to say what they think first, or John, because I think I know.
I'm not getting it. Obviously, I can combine John Hughes to Vacation, but nothing.
Let's see if anybody, since they're probably a few seconds behind us, let's see if anybody.
I'm looking.
I am too. They're still talking about corning.
Listen.
Told you.
What?
I'm not seeing many people that know what I'm talking about, though. So it's.
I'm not seeing any
Corning
people
where?
that
Corning
know.
where?
The word you're looking for is any people, not many. And I don't think this is a rare occurrence.
Somebody said they're going to Google Indian corn. That, I mean, I don't even know what you would call the hard corn.
So somebody said Chicago. Good guess.
Yeah. Let's have it, Shell.
Somebody got it.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I don't see it yet.
Someone, I have the connection. Corning.
I can't believe somebody got it.
I'm trying to look. See, I
don't see it.
I'm really, really impressed that someone got it.
I didn't see it.
I wait for more guesses before I say who got it, but someone did.
All right, my answer before I was trying to look down through there. I didn't see whatever it is that you saw, but my guess was Candy, just Candy, because of John Candy, and John Candy was a frequent flyer in John Hughes movies, and Candy, of course, being the staple of trick or treating. So Candy was my guess.
That also is Hella Razor's guess.
Yeah, and that is correct. It is John Candy, and the reason I chose John Candy, and I told you to be a little bit different because trick-or-treating with candy is the main thing. That's why I was trying to drive us towards your favorite candy and all of that stuff. John Candy was born on Halloween.
Oh.
Did not know that.
And so his birthday is coming up, and we all miss him dearly. I miss him dearly. I really just cannot believe how long, in 1994.
Wow.
Away. And he brought us so much just joy and happiness, and his characters. And he was in 5, I think 6, actually, John Hughes movies. So he and John Hughes were very close. And the movies that he was in with John Hughes are Vacation. We talked about that. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, The Great Outdoors, Uncle Buck, Home Alone, and Only the Lonely.
I didn't know Great Outdoors was a John Hughes movie.
Yeah.
That was the movie for whatever reason in the 90s that late night out drunk, come home with a bunch of friends or whatever, we would put that movie on and watch it over and over and over again. I probably bear, big bear. I could do that entire movie probably from the top of my head. Struck by lightning how many times? Six times. 66 times. Sorry. But imagine me doing that at 22 years old, wasted out of my mind, and that's pretty much every Saturday night in my entire college career.
Yeah, I love John Candy, and I would highly recommend all of you on his birthday, more than likely, if you are a Ryan Reynolds fan, because John Candy was Canadian, and Ryan Reynolds talks about him a lot as being somebody that he looked up to and aspired to be in terms of an entertainer. He'll put out this like 2-minute collage to music of John Candy, and it's brilliant. I think he does it on his birthday and the day he passes away. So yeah, I wanted to talk about him because Del Griffith is probably one of my top 5 favorite characters. I felt like there was so much of John Candy, the real John Candy, in the character Del Griffith that he should have won an Oscar for that.
Yeah, that was it, definitely, absolutely. And that trivia fact that he was born on Halloween just really ties this together even better.
Yeah, I thought you meant just that his last name was Candy, and I was going to cry foul. I'm like, cheater.
Well, I mean, that was part of it. That's why I said the connection was a little bit different.
No, but the birthday nails it.
But yeah.
Started out his career on the Canadian sketch show. SCTV.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I don't think I ever saw that live, but I've looked it up. The guy was brilliant. He was a brilliant comedian. He had incredible timing. He was lovable. He was likable. He was somebody you'd have a beer with that you could see in your real life, everyday life. We all felt like we knew him. That's pretty rare. I could enjoy people's movies. I can enjoy people's music and comedy. When some celebrity breaches the chasm and makes you feel like somehow you lost a friend when they pass on, and we started today earlier talking about how my daughter now feels like she lost because Liam from One Direction passed. And I told my daughter, expect this feeling to continue. You'll lose a lot of celebrities that will have a personal connection. It'll seem weird for you to mourn someone you didn't know. Mm-hmm. We continue to mourn John Candy 30 years after his death, mm-hmm. I think.
Yeah, and I mean, we didn't even talk about Stripes and playing Dewey Oxberger. And I mean, like I said, some of the quotes like, my name's Dewey Oxberger, my friends call me Ox. You might have noticed I got a slight weight problem. And of course, Bill Murray's character is like, no. And he's like, yeah. My doctor told me I swallow a lot of aggression along with a lot of pizzas. And I don't know. He was the kind of guy for me that I wish I would have had a chance to meet. I just really would have loved to sit down with him and just talk and bullshit.
They always say be careful of meeting the people you idolize because you can prepare to be disappointed. That's a notable exception that I don't think I would have been.
Yeah, and you could see it in the interviews that he did. The last sit-down interview he did where he was talking about his family. You can look it up. He was sitting out back of his house and he was talking about his family and how much he missed them when he was on the road, and that was very demanding and that he loved his kids. I mean, just seemed like a great dude and just one of the most talented actors and comedians that I think we've ever had.
Yeah, he was amazing, and the connection there with just Chris. Mwah.
Did you mention Home Alone as one of his movies?
I did. Yeah,
he did.
Yeah, and a lot of people didn't know that was John Hughes as well. So I don't know. I love talking about the people that I loved growing up and that brought me joy and entertained me and I feel nostalgic for. And John Candy is right at the top of that list.
Agreed.
Me sad. I'm sad now.
Yeah.
Watch Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, everybody.
Then we can laugh.
watched it, please, or it's been a
Oh my
while.
God, there's so many. That's the more you talk about that movie, I'm like, it may have nudged Breakfast Club out in a different way. Just the amazing scenes. Those aren't two pillows.
Yeah,
I mean, I never had a sleepover with a buddy. When I was, I mean, there'd be times when my mom would just like, okay, go share a bed or whatever. There was never a sleepover with a buddy that you didn't wake up at one point and be like, those aren't two pillows.
How the Bears doing? Yeah, and of course that had Edie McClurg in it too, who was Grace and Ferris Bueller, and she was the gobble gobble.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, the comments are just full of testaments on what an amazing actor John Candy was. I'll go you one further. I'm not sure he was acting half the time. I think the thing that made him feel like a friend and breached that division between celebrity and friend is he showed us who he was.
Yeah.
I think Uncle Buck.
Especially in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
I think Uncle Buck, he also showed us a lot of who he
Yes.
was too. I think that one was another one where you got to see the man behind the he wasn't the actor there. He was that person.
And even Summer Rental. I love Summer Rental. I mean, it was on the other day actually, and it just started, and I had it on in the background while I was doing some work, and I stopped working. And I just watched the movie because it had been so long, and it just every time he came on the screen, I smiled. It just, I don't know, just.
Oh, someone mentioned Barf. You were talking about earlier.
Halloween.
Barf.
Wirehead, who is a Canadian.
Yes.
Wirehead is our resident Canadian.
Yeah.
Couple in the comments. Uncle Buck, my favorite scenes were when he threatens the kid, but certainly when he talks to the woman, who, by the way, the principal in that scene, that he said, "Here's a quarter, go find a rat to gnaw that thing off your face."
Yeah.
She's younger than all three of us.
Shut up.
Don't tell me to shut up. Younger than all three of us.
Still?
No, not anymore. Although I don't think she's aging anymore either, to be fair.
She's probably.
Yeah, I don't think she's with us. But at that point in time in the movie, I did research. She's younger than us.
Wow.
Yay!
John does a lot of that aging. Look who's younger. Oh, hi. John does a lot of that aging. Who's younger than we are now? Kind of stuff, And that's that realization that like I'm a golden girl now. Like I'm an actual golden girl. And, I remember watching that whenever I was growing up and I'm thinking, man, they're old, and then you're thinking
golden girl though, because the Corning discussion, I always thought maybe a little more Blanche, but I got to tell you the golden girl, the Corning discussion.
Now I'm a little bit more Rose.
That was all Rose.
Yes.
That was all Rose. I'm like, holy moly, she's transforming before my eyes.
I think John and I are Wilford Brimley in Cocoon at this point.
Yeah.
4 years older.
Okay.
6 years older.
He was 58 in it?
He was 48.
He was 48.
48. We're 6 years older than him.
Okay.
To be fair, he wore makeup in the movie to look older.
Let's go back to John Candy.
People constantly tell me that. Like, they're wearing Grandpa Munster was older than us on the Munsters. He was like 48 also. And people are like, he wore makeup. Fuck you.
Yeah.
That's not makeup. That's bourbon for breakfast and filterless cigarettes. I swore a lot today. I'm sorry.
You did swear a lot today.
No, I don't curse much.
It was the Corning Rose.
It was you pissed me off, if I'm being honest. It's the trick-or-treating at 2:00 on a Thursday.
I think it's just that you're reflecting back on Steve Martin in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles when he lost his ever-loving mind at the rental.
I counted the fucks in that movie. I think it was like 46. It's a lot. That's what got him the R rating. It's a lot. And he's like, I'm not changing. He fought for a PG-13 rating and lost. And they told him that was the reason why, because the F word being said so many times, but he wasn't willing to let it go.
Yeah.
And I'm glad he didn't, because that's
And
my favorite
I'm glad he didn't
scene.
either.
That is my favorite scene. I want a fucking car fucking
I think
now.
John is going to have 46 of them in this episode alone.
I can't quote that scene without saying it.
Gobble gobble.
I think someone in the comments could probably go back and rewatch this now, and we could count up and see how many times John has dropped the F-bomb here on
I think
us.
it's 8 at this point. I think
Yeah.
it's 8 or 9.
Fuck
Yeah.
it.
9 times. 9 times.
I'll have a little meter. It'll be a little bell going off. Ding, ding, ding.
We need the applause every time. You know, you gotta put a sound thingy on.
Oh, that's
We'll do the
funny.
monkey symbol.
Guys, this was an awesome episode. You kind of stole my thunder for next week because I will be the host next week, and I'm gonna find a way to lean into spooky season pretty hard. I'll figure it out. I've not seen any good costume suggestions. I think somebody said the Golden Girls.
Oh boy.
Would you?
Oh, I got that. I got that one. I got it. Yeah.
I could probably pull off Maude. What was B. Arthur's name in the show? She was a handsome woman.
No, you know what? Let's reopen that up. We were talking and we paused to say that at the end here. Open up if anybody has any ideas for what we could dress up as that would be fairly, not too complex.
I kind of like the Golden Girls.
Well, yeah, we did. We do hope you all enjoyed today, especially everybody who's here new, people who have been here with us for a while, which we truly, truly appreciate. We really hope that you enjoyed this because we love doing it. I mean, this is like the perfect way to end the week and kick off the weekend, I think, for me anyway.
Yeah.
Let us know if the time works. If you're watching this in replay, if you couldn't attend today, but you're like, you know what, if it was 6, I could make it, or I'm just getting out of work. Let us know if that's part of the issue. We'd love to have a large studio audience. Right now, we've got quality for sure. I'd love to see the quantity go up and ask y'all to just share it with friends if it's something you like. I'm going to get better at pushing it out on Spotify as an actual podcast again. Kind of took a break from that because I wanted to build up some audience. But I love the fact that you guys are in here and you're part of the show. I put the comments out there for a reason so that when people watch not live, your comments are part of the show.
Someone said we should all be an ear of corn.
Should be what? My comments aren't scrolling.
An ear of mine aren't scrolling today either, so I'm looking at them. Someone said we should be an ear of corn.
No, because then Shell will throw us at a house. Dude, that still makes no sense to me. There's pebbles right there. They make sound too. Who did you steal Indian corn from?
There were fields everywhere. You could just, go and get a bag full of it,
God,
and
you
then
were children of the corn. You were literally a child of the corn.
Yes,
He wants you to.
Towhead, no less.
absolutely.
That line. He wants you to,
Malachi.
Yeah.
All right, guys. This has been awesome. Appreciate all of you. Chris, chef's kiss. Great connection. Didn't see it coming. Should have seen it coming. Didn't come close.
Thanks. Yeah.
Great connection, Chris.
Wanted to memorialize him and, wherever he is, let him know that we all loved him.
So listen, we'll be back next week, 5:30 p.m. right here. Tell your friends, bring a friend, somebody else. Let's see if we can pop it up. We appreciate you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you had a great time. This is John Catrides signing off, and I'll see you guys out there when I see you.
See ya.
Everybody.
Just like that, Shell.
Just like that.
All right.
I'm bringing